Hey, welcome to a new video. The Nephilim are mysterious figures mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Genesis. They're often described as giants, the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. The term Nephilim is sometimes translated as giants in various versions of the Hebrew Bible, though in some cases it remains untranslated. The primary reference to the Nephilim appears in Genesis 6:1-4, which states that they existed in the days before the Great Flood. This passage suggests that they were known for their immense size and strength, and they were often associated with violence and tyranny. The Nephilim are also mentioned in the book of Numbers, where they're described as inhabitants of Canaan. Some traditions suggest that the Nephilim were hybrids, the result of unions between fallen angels and human women. This idea is supported by extra-biblical texts, such as the book of Enoch.
Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video.
Behemoth is a creature mentioned in the book of Job, specifically in the Job 40:15-24. It's described as a powerful grass-eating animal created by God, and symbolizes his power and the grandeur of his creations. The text says, "Behold Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox." The Bible notes that its bones are like tubes of bronze, and its limbs are like bars of iron. This imagery suggests that the behemoth is not just a large animal, but one of extraordinary strength, the first of the works of God. In the context of Job, a behemoth serves as a reminder of God's sovereignty and creative power. God uses the creature to show Job the limits of human understanding and the vastness of divine capability. Interpretations of behemoth vary. Some scholars believe it refers to a real animal, like a hippopotamus or an elephant, while others see it as a symbol of chaos and the unpredictable forces of nature. The Bible describes Leviathan as a terrifying and powerful creature, often portrayed with extraordinary traits. In Job 41, Leviathan is vividly described, with references that some interpret as fire-breathing features. In other biblical passages, Leviathan is portrayed as a multi-headed sea monster. For example, Psalm 74:14 mentions God breaking the heads of Leviathan and giving them as food to the people in the wilderness, implying that it had multiple heads, a detail that aligns with ancient Near Eastern myths of multi-headed sea monsters. Isaiah 27:1 also describes Leviathan as a twisting serpent and a dragon in the sea, emphasizing its monstrous and serpentine nature. The biblical image of Leviathan is inspired by older Mesopotamian myths, such as the Ugaritic tale in which storm god Baal defeats the sea god Yam, and the many-headed serpent Lotan. These myths likely influenced the biblical portrayal of Leviathan as a chaotic sea creature, symbolizing forces that oppose God. The four horsemen of the apocalypse are a significant biblical symbol found in the book of Revelation, specifically in Revelation 6:1-8. They represent various forms of catastrophe that herald the last judgment and the end times. The first horseman rides a white horse and is often interpreted as a symbol of conquest or victory, carrying a bow and wearing a crown as he goes out conquering and to conquer. The second horseman rides a red horse, symbolizing war and bloodshed, and is given power to take peace from the earth, inciting conflict among the people. The third horseman rides a black horse and represents famine, with the scales he carries symbolizing food shortages and the rationing of provisions. The fourth horseman rides a pale horse and is called Death, followed by Hades. Together, they symbolize mortality and the inevitability of life. The four horsemen are commonly seen as symbolic representations of the trials and tribulations that will occur before the second coming of Jesus Christ. They illustrate a sequence of events leading up to divine judgment and the fulfillment of God's plan for humanity. Witchcraft is mentioned in both the Old and New Testaments and is often linked to idolatry and the worship of false gods. The Hebrew Bible generally condemns witchcraft, associating it with rebellion against God. Exodus 22:18 declares, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," a verse historically used to justify the persecution of alleged witches. One of the most notable biblical stories involving a witch is in 1 Samuel 28, where King Saul, desperate for guidance for battle, seeks out the witch of Endor to summon the spirit of the prophet Samuel. Despite the prohibition on witchcraft, Saul turns to the medium, and she successfully conjures Samuel's spirit. This story is often cited in discussions about biblical views on necromancy and the supernatural. In the New Testament, witchcraft is frequently equated with sin and pagan practices. It's seen as a distortion of true spirituality, and a means by which Satan lures people away from God, offering them false powers and illusions of enlightenment. The beast in the book of Revelation is a central figure in the apocalyptic vision described by John. It appears prominently in Revelation 13, where two distinct beasts are introduced, one rising from the sea and the other from the earth. These beasts symbolize forces of evil in opposition to God, and are often interpreted as manifestations of Satan's power. The first beast arises from the sea, and has 10 horns and 7 heads, with blasphemous names written on them. This beast is commonly associated with political power or empires that oppose God and persecute his people. It receives its authority from the dragon, Satan, and the world marvels at and worships the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" The second beast, also known as the false prophet, emerges from the earth and has 2 horns like a lamb, but it speaks like a dragon. This beast is seen as a religious or ideological force that supports the first beast. It performs great signs, deceives people, and compels them to worship the first beast. Revelation describes the mark of the beast as essential for buying and selling, yet urges believers to remain faithful to God, for Christ will ultimately triumph. Dagon is a significant figure in the Bible. Known primarily as a Philistine god associated with fertility and agriculture, he's often depicted as having the face and the hands of a man and the tail of a fish. Dagon is one of the oldest deities mentioned in biblical texts, with roots tracing back to ancient Mesopotamia, possibly as far as 3000 BCE. The name Dagon is derived from the Hebrew word dag, meaning fish. Dagon appears multiple times in the Hebrew Bible, especially in relation to the Philistines, who worshipped him as their chief deity. One notable reference is found in 1 Samuel 5, when the Ark of the Covenant is captured by the Philistines. In this story, the idol of Dagon falls before the Ark, symbolizing the supremacy of the God of Israel over the Philistine god. When the idol is found fallen and broken, only its head and hands remained intact. Writers like H.P. Lovecraft would later reimagine Dagon in literature as an otherworldly being still present on Earth, residing in isolation on a forgotten island. Satyrs are mentioned in the Bible, particularly in the King James Version, where they appear in the context of desolate and abandoned places, often associated with wild animals. The term satyr comes from the Hebrew word sayer, which can mean goat, or refer to a demon or idol resembling a goat, referring to wilderness areas and ruins. These verses suggest satyrs were seen as hairy, wild beings, possibly goat-like creatures or mythical entities. In Greek mythology, satyrs are portrayed as half-man, half-goat beings associated with Dionysus and known for revelry and their connection to nature. Over time, interpretations of biblical satyrs have evolved. Some link them to Greek satyrs, but in the Bible, they're often viewed as demons or spirits that haunt abandoned places, reflecting chaos and the fall of civilization. The Living Bible translates these cultures as desert beasts that will inhabit ruins of Babylon, symbolizing destruction and nature reclaiming desolation. Cherubim are celestial beings mentioned through the Bible, often associated with God's presence and glory. They fulfill various significant roles, including guarding sacred places and participating in worship. The Bible offers several descriptions of cherubim, particularly in the book of Ezekiel. They're depicted with 4 faces, those of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, and with 6 wings. This imagery emphasizes their otherworldly nature and the role in the divine realm. In Ezekiel 10:1-22, they are involved in the movement of God's glory and are often seen as guardians of holy places. After Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, God stationed cherubim at the entrance to guard the way to the Tree of Life. They were accompanied by a flaming sword that turned in all directions to prevent re-entry. Cherubim are also servants close to God, elevating his holiness and power, and at times even supporting his throne. And they were also intricately designed as part of the Ark of the Covenant, symbolizing God's presence among his people. God instructed Moses to create 2 gold cherubim with his wings outstretched, overshadowing the mercy seat. One of the most well-known references to the Angel of Death appears in the book of Exodus during the 10th plague in Egypt. The angel moves through the land, striking down the firstborn of every household. To be spared, the Israelites were instructed to mark their doorposts with lamb's blood, so the angel would pass over their homes. Another story features an angel of the Lord striking down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in a single night to protect Jerusalem. Later, after King David conducts a census against God's will, a plague is sent upon Israel. An angel is depicted standing with a drawn sword over Jerusalem, ready to destroy it, until God relents. This angel, often considered a manifestation of divine judgment, exemplifies the concept of the angel of the death. This angel, often considered a manifestation of divine judgment, exemplifies the concept of the angel of death. In Jewish tradition, this figure is personified as Malach HaMavet, sometimes portrayed as a distinct being executing God's will. Rabbinic literature expands on this angel's characteristics and responsibilities. The Islamic counterpart is Azrael, the angel tasked with collecting souls at the moment of death.
The Pilate stone is an archaeological artifact that provides evidence for the existence of Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea during the time of Jesus Christ. The stone is a limestone block discovered in 1961 in the ancient city of Caesarea Maritima, the capital of the Roman province of Judea. The stone bears an inscription that identifies Pontius Pilate as the governor of Judea, a fact also mentioned in the Bible. This dedication also indicates that Pilate commissioned the construction of a temple in honor of Emperor Tiberius. The discovery offers concrete proof of Pilate's historical existence and confirms what is written in the Bible. The Pilate stone is the only known surviving artifact bearing the name of Pontius Pilate, who is famous for ordering the crucifixion of Jesus. Today you can see the stone at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, where it's preserved and protected for future generations. The Pool of Siloam is a significant site in the city of David in Jerusalem and is mentioned in the Bible. It's a large water reservoir located in the southern part of ancient Jerusalem. In the Bible, it's mentioned in the Gospel of John, where it's described as the place where Jesus healed a blind man by anointing his eyes with mud and telling him to wash in the pool. The pool also served as a water source for the city's residents. It was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD during the siege of Jerusalem and remained hidden and forgotten for centuries. In 2004, it was rediscovered by archaeologists Ronnie Reich and Eli Shukran, who found the remains of the ancient pool near the city of David. The structure was 225 feet or 68.5 meters long and dates back to the Second Temple period, the same period in which Jesus lived. The discovery of the pool is seen as a milestone in biblical archaeology. Today, the pool is considered an important Christian site and is visited by many tourists.
The cockatrice is a mythical creature mentioned in several passages from the Bible, especially in the King James Version. It's often depicted as a serpent or dragon-like being, with origins rooted in medieval folklore, suggesting a future era of peace and safety. Isaiah 59:5 refers to the cockatrice in the context of laying eggs, reinforcing its serpentine nature. In Jeremiah 8:17, the Bible warns of cockatrices sent among the people, highlighting their dangerous and venomous traits. The cockatrice is commonly described as a poisonous snake, with the head, wings, and legs of a bird, and the tail of a serpent. The term likely emerged in the Middle Ages from mistranslation of a Hebrew word in the Bible. In medieval bestiaries, the cockatrice was said to have been born from a rooster's egg, and was associated with death and destruction due to its lethal bite.
The James ossuary is a limestone bone box that measures approximately 19.5 inches, or 50 centimeters in length, 10 inches or 25 centimeters in width, and 12 inches or 30 centimeters in height. It's adorned with a rosette design on the sides and bears an Aramaic inscription that reads, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. It's believed to date from the 1st century AD, the same period as the life of Jesus and his family. The James ossuary is named after James, the brother of Jesus, who was a significant figure in the early Christian church. According to the New Testament, James played a key role in the church in Jerusalem and was ultimately martyred for his faith. This inscription, if authentic, would be considered the earliest written reference to Jesus. However, the authenticity of the inscription has been disputed since its discovery in 2002. Two prominent paleographers, André Lemaire of the Sorbonne and Ade Yardarni of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, have authenticated the inscription. However, the Israel Antiquities Authority decided to have a group of scholars re-examine the inscription and say they will ultimately report their findings. You're looking at one of the most controversial objects in history. The Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth that some people believe to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, bearing his image. The cloth has been subject of controversy and debate for centuries, with some advocating for its authenticity and others questioning its validity. The Shroud of Turin is said to have been discovered in the mid-14th century in the French town of Lorraine, and it's been preserved in the Italian city of Turin since 1578. The cloth measures approximately 13 feet or 4 meters in length, and 3 feet or 1 meters in width, and features the image of a man who appears to have been crucified. It's said the image was formed by the body coming into contact with the cloth. Advocates for the authenticity of the shroud claim that the image was formed by a miraculous imprint of Jesus' body, as he lay in the tomb. They point out that the image resembles a negative, which would have been impossible for medieval forgers to create. They also believe that the bloodstains on the cloth correspond to wounds described in the Bible.
Unicorns appear in the King James Version of the Bible as a translation of the Hebrew word "riam," which likely referred to a large horned animal, such as an oryx or a wild ox. Their mention has sparked debate among scholars. Some interpret the unicorn as a mythical creature, while others argue it referred to a real animal known to ancient cultures. The use of unicorn in the King James Version has led to discussions about the translation accuracy and the interpretation of biblical texts. Modern translation often replace unicorn with wild ox, or similar terms. In Numbers 23:22, the unicorn symbolizes strength. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath as it were the strength of a unicorn. In Deuteronomy 33:17, a unicorn is mentioned in a blessing from Moses. In Job 39:9-10, the unicorn is presented in a more naturalistic context, questioning whether it can be domesticated, thus emphasizing its wild and untamed nature. Isaiah 34:7 references the unicorns in a prophecy about the judgment and destruction, describing the downfall of Edom.
The Galilee boat, also known as the Jesus boat, is an ancient fishing boat from the 1st century AD, discovered in 1986. It was found on the northwestern shore of the Sea of Galilee in Israel. The remains of the boat, measuring 27 feet or 8.2 meters in length and 7.5 feet or 2.3 meters in width, first appeared during a drought when the waters of the sea receded. Constructed from various types of wood, including cedar planks from Lebanon and trees typical of Galilee, the boat was used for fishing purposes. The discovery is considered an extraordinary archaeological find and has attracted many Christian pilgrims, as it's associated with Jesus and his disciples. Kibbutz Gnosser, a communal settlement in Israel, displays the carefully preserved Galilee boat at the exact location of its discovery. According to various carbon dating tests and artifacts found nearby, the fishing boat was in use during the time of Jesus. Some even suggest that the boat might have been used by Jesus or his disciples, and it's also been linked to the famous story of Jesus calming the storm on the Sea of Galilee. According to some, these two ancient crucifixion nails may have possibly been used in the crucifixion of Jesus. The crucifixion nails were discovered separately, with one found in the 1990s in Jerusalem and the other found in the 1970s. They've been the subject of much debate and speculation, with some experts suggesting they could have been used in a crucifixion, while others remain skeptical. But this wasn't the only instance of crucifixion nails being found. These two corroded Roman iron nails were found in an unmarked box, delivered to the University of Tel Aviv. It's suggested that they came from the tomb of the Jewish high priest Caiaphas, who presided over Jesus' trial. What's interesting is that the crucifixion nails found in the tomb share the same chemical properties as the bone boxes there. They also contain a unique mold found only in that tomb. Furthermore, the crucifixion nails found in Jerusalem were discovered near a cemetery, believed to date back to the time of Jesus.
Rahab is a figure in biblical and mythological traditions, often associated with chaos and opposition to divine order. Unlike Rahab of Jericho, this Rahab refers to symbolic sea monsters representing primal chaos. In Psalm 89:10, Job 26:12, and Isaiah 51:9-10, Rahab is depicted as a mythical creature defeated by Yahweh. This passage emphasizes God's power in subduing chaos and establishing order. Isaiah 37 metaphorically equates Rahab with Egypt, portraying it as a proud and rebellious force against God. A mythical monster of evil, ultimately conquered by divine authority. Rahab is often linked to the ancient Near Eastern chaos comp motif, the struggle between a deity and a chaos monster to establish order.
The road to Emmaus is an important location in Christian tradition, where Jesus revealed himself to two disciples after his resurrection. However, the exact location of Emmaus has been a subject of debate among scholars and archaeologists. One possible location associated with Emmaus is Emmaus Nicopolis, which is located approximately 10 miles or 16 kilometers west of Jerusalem in Ayalon, Canada Park. Emmaus Necropolis is believed to be the location mentioned in the Gospel of Luke. The disciples initially did not recognize Jesus, but during their journey, he explained the scriptures to them and revealed his identity when he broke bread with them. The identification of Emmaus Nicopolis as the biblical Emmaus is based on historical sources and archaeological evidence. Eusebius, a 4th century Christian historian, referred to Nicopolis as the Bible Emmaus in his writings. Jerome, a theologian from the 5th century, also mentioned a church in Nicopolis where Jesus was with his disciples. Archaeological excavations and research have been conducted in the vicinity of Emmaus Nicopolis, providing further support for its identification as the biblical Emmaus. Discoveries such as Byzantine churches, inscriptions, ancient tombs, and a The Roman bathhouse have also been found in the area. The New Testament Gospels, including the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are considered significant sources of information. These texts hold both religious and historical value, and are studied by scholars for their historical reliability. The Gospels present various perspectives on life, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Each Gospel has its own style, emphasis, and intended audience. For example, the Gospel of Matthew emphasizes on Jesus' fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies and his role as the Messiah. The Gospel of Mark focuses on action and portrays Jesus as the suffering servant. The Gospel of Luke provides a detailed chronological account of Jesus' life, while the Gospel of John emphasizes the divinity of Jesus and his miracles. Scholars analyze various factors to assess the historical reliability of the Gospels, such as internal consistency, external confirmation, cultural and historical context, and the presence of eyewitness accounts. They've also compared the Gospels to other historical sources and archaeological findings to gain a better understanding of the events described.
In the Bible, demons are mainly portrayed as fallen angels who joined Satan in his rebellion against God. Revelation 12:4 describes how a third of the angels followed Satan and were cast out of heaven. These demons are depicted as malevolent forces that seek to lead humans into sin and away from God. They're spiritual agents of evil, capable of influencing human behavior and even possessing individuals. Two of the most well-known demonic figures are Beelzebub and Belial. Beelzebub's name derives from the Philistine god Baal-zebub, meaning the Lord of Flies. Over time, he became associated with evil and was considered one of the highest-ranking demons in Christian demonology. He's often linked with gluttony and temptation, and appears as a prominent fallen angel in literary works such as John Milton's Paradise Lost. Belial, whose name means worthless or lawless, is depicted as a demon of corrupt and depravity, the antithesis of righteousness. In demonology, Belial is seen as a powerful spirit who promotes wickedness, deceit, and immorality. He appears in several biblical passages as a personification of evil, or as a term used to describe the utterly corrupt.
Magdala is an archaeological site in Israel considered to be the birthplace of Mary Magdalene. It was a prosperous fishing village on the shores of the Sea of Galilee during the Hellenistic period. Its streets were paved with stones, and it had a first-century synagogue. However, the village fell into decline over the centuries due to religious and military conflicts. In 2009, a Catholic priest from Spain had a vision to establish a spiritual center on the site of the ancient Magdala. The area was excavated, leading to significant discoveries. One of the most notable findings was a first-century synagogue, one of the only 7 synagogues from that period in Israel. The synagogue contained coins dating back to 5 to 63 AD, including a coin with an image of Jesus. Magdala is also known for its spectacular mosaics, which showcase the Greco-Roman influence of the region during the Herodian period. The excavation unearthed the Magdala stone, a finely carved stone that purposely represents the earliest depiction of the Great Temple in Jerusalem. Magdala is recognized in the Christian text from the 6th century AD as the birthplace of Mary Magdalene. It's also mentioned in historical accounts from the 8th to 10th centuries AD, describing a church and house associated with Mary Magdalene in the village. Israeli archaeologists recently made an intriguing discovery: a 2,700-year-old seal engraved with the word Bethlehem. This ancient artifact is considered the oldest mention of Bethlehem outside of biblical texts. The seal was found in Jerusalem and provides compelling evidence that Bethlehem was not only a legendary biblical city, but also a prosperous trade center connected to Jerusalem. This sheds new light on the city's origins and confirms its existence as a bustling market town during the period of the first Jewish temple, hundreds of years before the birth of Jesus. The seal was a diameter of 0.6 inch or 1.5 centimeters. It's made of clay and was likely used to seal administrative tax documents. It was found alongside pottery from the same period, further confirming its age and authenticity. The inscription of the seal was written in ancient Hebrew script, adding to its historical value. This discovery is particularly remarkable because it represents the earliest known reference to Bethlehem. However, the significance of Bethlehem goes beyond its historical value. It's recognized as the birthplace of Jesus and holds deep religious meaning for Christians around the world. UNESCO recognizes the Church of the Nativity and the pilgrimage route in Bethlehem as a culturally and historically significant site related to the birth of Jesus.
The pit locusts are terrifying creatures, described in Revelation 9:3-11. These beings are not ordinary insects, but a demonic horde released from the bottomless pit. They are said to resemble locusts with the stinging tails of scorpions and the ability to torment people for 5 months. The imagery in Revelation emphasizes their monstrous appearance. They have armor like war horses, human-like faces, long hair, and teeth like lions. Their purpose is to inflict suffering on those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. These creatures are led by a king, the Angel of the Abyss, named Abaddon, meaning destroyer. The pit locusts symbolize divine judgment and the unleashing of chaotic supernatural forces during the end times.
The Sudarium of Oviedo is a relic that some believe is associated with Jesus Christ and is considered evidence of his existence. It's a piece of cloth measuring approximately 84 by 53 centimeters and is claimed to have been used to cover and clean the face of Jesus after his crucifixion. Its history dates back to the 7th century, when it was brought from Palestine to Spain to protect it from destruction during an invasion. Since the 11th century, it's been preserved in the Cathedral of Oviedo. The stains on the cloth indicate that it was placed on the face of a crucified person whose body suffered from suffocation. The stains, a mixture of blood and fluid, contain pollen from regions such as Palestine, Oviedo, Toledo, North Africa, and Jerusalem. Both the Sudarium of Oviedo and the Shroud of Turin contain blood of the same type, AB. Furthermore, when comparing the stains to each other, there's a significant resemblance between the stains and the beard on the face. Quite interesting, isn't it? The Nazareth inscription is a marble tablet with a Greek inscription that was discovered in an unknown location and acquired by the National Library of Paris in 1925. However, the exact origin and date of the inscription are uncertain. The inscription itself dates back to the 1st century AD and is written in Greek. It's attributed to the Roman Emperor Claudius, who reigned from 41 to 54 AD. The inscription consists of 19 lines and refers to a Roman law related to the disturbance of graves and punishment for such acts. Since the text of the inscription is damaged, some parts are challenging to interpret. It's generally interpreted as an edict by Claudius warning against grave robbery and disturbance of burial sites. The connection between the Nazareth inscription and the existence of Nazareth is somewhat indirect. The name Nazareth does not appear in the inscription itself. Some scholars have suggested a possible link between the Nazareth inscription and the empty tomb of Jesus, as mentioned in the New Testament. The inscription implies a Roman response to the story of Jesus' resurrection, indicating that rumors of grave robbery were circulating at the time.
Seraphim are celestial beings often regarded as the highest order of the angels in Judeo-Christian tradition. Their name, derived from the Hebrew word burning, reflects their fiery nature in association with divine purity and holiness. The most prominent biblical description of seraphim comes from the book of Isaiah, where they're portrayed as 6-winged beings surrounding the throne of God. In Isaiah's version, the seraphim are continuously engaged in worship, proclaiming God's holiness and serving as agents of purification. They're characterized by their 6 wings, 2 covering their faces, 2 covering their feet, and 2 used for flying. Seraphim are seen as guardians of God's loneliness and are believed to serve directly in His presence, highlighting their closeness to the divine. Their role goes beyond worship. They're also involved in the purification of individuals, as illustrated during Isaiah's prophetic calling, when one of them touches his lips with a burning coal to cleanse him.
Recently, a 1,000-year-old Bible was discovered in Turkey with an image of Jesus inside of it. The Bible was found in central Turkish city of Tokat in 2015 during an operation to prevent the smuggling of valuable artifacts out of the country. The Bible's origin is unknown, and its cover was damaged, but inside it contained photos made of gold leaf, purportedly depicting Jesus Christ. In addition to the image of Jesus, the Bible also includes images said to represent Mary, the mother of Jesus, and a cross. The text inside the Bible is written in the ancient Assyrian language. This ancient language adds linguistic and historical value to the artifact, as it was widely used in various regions during the medieval period. The discovery of this ancient Bible sparked interest among scholars because it may provide valuable insights into the development of Christianity over the centuries. Within the Bible's pages, you can find faded images of golden illustrations, along with other finds such as jewelry and ancient coins. The Pool of Bethesda is an archaeological site in Jerusalem, mentioned in the Gospel of John in the Bible. According to the biblical account, it was the place where Jesus performed a healing miracle. The pool is described as a pool with 5 colonnades and was believed to have healing powers. Archaeologists excavated the Pool of Bethesda in the late 19th century and discovered a rectangular pool with 2 basins separated by a wall. The excavation confirmed the existence of the pool with its unique features. The Pool of Bethesda is believed to have been a mikveh, a Jewish ritual bath used for purification. It suggested that people sought healing at the pool because the first person to step into the water was believed to be cured of their ailment. The location of the Pool of Bethesda has seen various additions and modifications over time, including the construction of chapels and churches. These additions were made to commemorate the site of Jesus' miracle and other significant events in his life.
Lilith is a fascinating figure rooted in ancient mythology, especially within Mesopotamian folklore. Often seen as a demon or a night spirit, her origin traces back to Babylonian texts, where she's associated with darkness and the supernatural. The name Lilith more likely comes from the Sumerian word Lilitu, meaning night or night owl. In various myths, Lilith is depicted as a seductive night creature who flies through the dark, luring men and posing a threat to pregnant women and infants. She makes a striking appearance in the Bible, specifically in Isaiah 34, where she's mentioned among the desolate creatures of the wilderness. The biblical reference contributed to her reputation as a night monster or night witch. Over the centuries, Lilith has been interpreted in many ways, from a demonic figure to a symbol of female independence and empowerment, making her one of the most enigmatic figures in mystical tradition.
Ron White is a controversial American amateur archaeologist, and he claims to have discovered the Ark of the Covenant. Ron believed that the Ark was located beneath the crucifixion site of Jesus in the ancient city of Jerusalem. The Ark of the Covenant is a chest described in the Bible as containing 2 stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. Legends surrounding the Ark suggest that it possesses immense power, and that viewing it can have serious consequences. Ron claims to have found it in 1982, and he believed that this event was prophesized. He also reported that while excavating in Jerusalem, he came across an underground chamber, and in that chamber, he found the Ark. He described the chamber as filled with debris and various materials from the first temple, covered with animal hides, boards, and stones. One particularly remarkable claim Ron made was that he found the blood of Jesus on the mercy seat of the Ark. The mercy seat is the lid of the Ark, representing the place of atonement and divine presence. He stated that he saw a dried black substance on the ceiling. of the chamber directly above the Ark, which he believed could be the blood of Jesus. The ossuary of Caiaphas refers to the bone box believed to have belonged to Caiaphas. Caiaphas is a high priest mentioned in the New Testament and associated with the trial of Jesus. Israeli archaeologists discovered the family tomb of Caiaphas in an ancient cave near Jerusalem. The bones of the family were found in ornate and intricately decorated ossuaries, a type of ceremonial box commonly used by Jews in the late 1st century. The ossuary in question was adorned with a rare and elaborate pattern of rosettes and bore an inscription that read Joseph, son of Caiaphas. The discovery of the ossuary provided archaeological evidence supporting the existence of this important figure from the New Testament. It also sheds light on the historical context in which Jesus lived and the events surrounding his trial. Some archaeologists have questioned whether these bones indeed belong to Caiaphas. What do you think? Could this have been the priest from the Bible?
Azazel is a demonic wilderness figure whose identity has been the subject of much debate. In Leviticus 16:8-10, Azazel appears in the context of the Day of Atonement ritual, where 2 goats are chosen. One is sacrificed to the Lord, and the other is sent into the wilderness, to Azazel. In Jewish traditions and later interpretations, Azazel is often seen as a demonic or fallen angel, associated with the wilderness and impurity. The wilderness symbolizes chaos and separation from divine order, and Azazel was viewed as the embodiment of impurity. The goats sent to him carried the sins of the people into the realm of chaos. Later, Jewish writings identified Azazel as a rebellious angel who introduced sin to humanity and ruled over the wild, as well as uninhabited places. The ritual of the scapegoat symbolically transferred the people's sins into this demonic figure, emphasizing the separation of sin from the community.
The house of Peter in Capernaum is an ancient site believed to have belonged to the Apostle Peter, who was closely associated with Jesus. Capernaum, located on the northern Sea of Galilee, was a significant city during the time of Jesus and served as a base for his ministry. The belief in the existence of the house of Peter in Capernaum is based on archaeological excavations and historical evidence. The site was first discovered in the late 19th century and has since been subject to various excavations. The remains of a house were found beneath the Byzantine-era church, and it's believed to be the house where Peter lived. The house itself contains several rooms built around a central courtyard and is constructed in the style of houses from the time of Jesus. The walls of the house were made of basalt stones, which were commonly used in the region. Additionally, the site includes the ruins of a synagogue and other ancient structures. There's indications that Jesus stayed in Peter's house during his visits to Capernaum. In the New Testament, there's accounts of Jesus healing Peter's mother-in-law in her house in Capernaum.
The Ophanim are a unique class of angelic beings described in biblical and extra-biblical texts. They are most famously depicted in the visions of prophet Ezekiel, where they're part of God's divine chariot, also known as the Merkabah. These beings are often associated with wheels covered in eyes. The Ophanim are not inanimate objects, but living, intelligent entities that move in perfect harmony with the spirit of the cherubim and the divine throne. Their movements are precise and multidirectional, symbolizing their role in executing God's will throughout the universe. In Ezekiel's version, they form part of the broader heavenly hierarchy, working in unison with the cherubim and seraphim. They're commonly interpreted as symbols of God's supreme authority and omnipresence, with their many eyes representing an all-seeing nature. In Christian angelology, the Ophanim are sometimes equated with the thrones, one of the 9 orders of angels.
The Talpiot tomb is a rock-cut tomb, discovered during construction work in a neighborhood of the city of Jerusalem in 1980. It contains ossuaries with inscriptions such as Jesus, son of Joseph, and Mary Magdalene, which are associated with Jesus and his family. Some people believe that this is the official tomb of Jesus, although many archaeologists dispute the claim. An alternative proposed location for the burial site of Jesus is the Garden Tomb. This is a Christian pilgrimage site in Jerusalem, considered by some Protestants as the empty tomb from which Jesus of Nazareth rose. Some believe it to be the actual tomb mentioned in the Bible, while others see it as a symbolic site. However, there's yet another location that people think might be the resting place of Jesus. The Holy Sepulchre is a church traditionally believed to have been built on the site where Jesus was both crucified and buried, and resurrected. It's located in Jerusalem and is a significant pilgrimage destination for Christians. The church complex includes various areas, including the Stone of Anointing, the Holy Sepulchre itself, and the Chapel of the Angel. The exact location within the church complex that corresponds to the events of Jesus' burial and resurrection is a subject of debate among scholars. Every year on Orthodox Holy Saturday, a ceremony known as the Miracle of the Holy Fire takes place inside the church. According to tradition, a divine flame miraculously appears in the tomb, which is then shared among the gatherers, believed as a symbol of Jesus' resurrection.
Satan, also known as the devil or Lucifer, is portrayed in the Bible as a once angelic being who fell from grace due to sin. He's now depicted as the ultimate adversary of God, working to thwart divine plans and lead humanity astray. Isaiah 14:12 is often cited in reference to his pre-fall name, Lucifer, meaning morning star, or lightbringer in Latin. The passage describes a figure who sought to exalt himself above God and was consequently cast down. In the New Testament, Jesus says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," which is frequently linked to his rebellion, further detailed in Revelation 12:7-9, where Satan and his angels are defeated in a heavenly war by Michael and cast to earth. Satan tempts Jesus in the wilderness, appears in the book of Job as the accuser challenging Job's righteousness, and is portrayed in Revelation as the deceiver of the whole world and leader of a cosmic rebellion. Ultimately, he's defeated and cast into the lake of fire, yet remains active in tempting and deceiving humanity, residing over the realm of hell. Which of these biblical creatures do you think is the scariest? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.